Good morning. I'm Denise Smiler, Chair of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I would like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices at this time. Also, while masks are no longer mandatory, please feel free to wear a mask if you believe it is necessary or required for your own well-being. With 6 board members present this morning and Commissioner Dermody by telephone, I'd like to call today's meeting to order. Commissioner Dermody, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I would also like to note for the record that in addition to the 7 board members, we also have our ex officio members, Fred Strathmeyer, representing Russell Redding, Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, Adria Zimmerman, representing Pat Brown, Secretary for the Department of Revenue, and Jennifer Langen, representing Stacy Garrity, State Treasurer. Thank you, ex officios, for joining us. As the first order of business, I'd like to now ask everyone to please stand and join me in a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, November 19th, to discuss personnel matters, pending litigation, and to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters coming before the board. We will now hear from our Executive Director, Kevin O'Toole. Kevin?
Good morning, Chair Smiler, members of the board. Today, our Office of Communications released this morning the Gaming Control Board's press release reporting October revenue from all forms of gaming regulated by the board. And I thought that I would just describe a few of the highlights. Total combined revenue for October 2024 was $496,585,461, an increase of 2.18% compared to revenue generated in October of 2023. Total tax revenue generated collectively through all forms of gambling was $209,157,522 during October of 2024. In reviewing the October revenue report, I have 3 takeaways. First, there was a continued strong showing in the area of land-based slot machine revenue. Any month with a total slot machine revenue figure over $200 million is outstanding, and October's slot revenue was slightly over $200 million. Secondly, there was a very strong showing in the area of online slots revenue. Online slots revenue increased 28.26% over the previous year, and the total online slots revenue of $140.8 million for October of 2024 is the highest monthly online slot total to date. And third, VGT revenue at board-licensed VGT truck stops in Pennsylvania continue to show strong revenue figures. October's VGT revenue of all truck stops combined, of which we have 74 truck stops who are licensed. That revenue for October was $3,556,562, which was 4.42% higher than the revenue from a year ago. And it's been strong all year. So we're fortunate to have very good operators who are generating revenue and taxes for Pennsylvania. And before I conclude this morning, I would like to recognize Chair Denise Smiler for a recognition that she recently received, very deservedly. She was named as one of the most influential African Americans of Philadelphia by the Tribute magazine of Philadelphia. So congratulations again on your recognition.
Thank you, Kevin. Totally unnecessary to actually say that, but I appreciate it. Okay, next we will hear from our Human Resources Director, Heidi Zula. Heidi?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. The Office of Human Resources has one motion for your consideration today relative to the hiring of two individuals. Both individuals have completed the background investigation and drug screening. Brendan Bevel has been selected as an Assistant Enforcement Counsel 1 in the Office of Enforcement Counsel and is recommended for hire by Cyrus Petrie, Chief Enforcement Counsel. Daniel Mandera has been selected as a Legislative Specialist in the Office of Chief Counsel and is recommended for hire by Stephen Cook, Chief Counsel. Unless you have any questions, I ask that the board consider a motion to approve the hiring actions as indicated.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the applicants for hire as proposed by the Human Resources Director.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Next is our Office of Chief Counsel.
Morning. Our first order of business today, we have two resolutions for the board's consideration. The first resolution before you delegates authority to the executive director to approve or deny the transfer of a casino surveillance department employee to a non-surveillance position within the same facility. The board's regulations state that a present or former surveillance department employee may not accept employment as a key employee or a gaming employee with the same slot machine licensee for which he or she was previously employed as a surveillance department employee unless 1 year has passed from the employment as a surveillance department employee. This provision further states, however, that an employee may file a petition requesting that the board waive that regulation and permit the transfer in employment. Since 2006, the board has approved several requests to transfer surveillance employees to other positions within the same facility. After careful review of the situation indicated that the transfer did not create a risk to the slot machine licensee. However, experience has shown that the requirement of filing a petition, the Office of Enforcement Counsel answering the petition, and then the matter having to be placed on a board agenda can cause delay for both the employee and the slot machine licensee and is not in the best interest of either. For that reason, we would ask for regulation or a resolution delegating authority to approve these transfers to the executive director in consultation with the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Office of Chief Counsel, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the delegation of authority regarding the transfer of casino surveillance to the executive director as proposed by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The next proposed resolution before the board today establishes a uniform policy for submission of requests seeking a waiver of the board's regulations related to games, gaming systems, and gaming devices. As the board is aware, the Bureau of Gaming Laboratory Operations approves all games in the various gaming verticals, and in this approval process, the gaming lab tests the game against the board's regulations. When board staff is presented with a new table game or side wager to an existing table game, the Office of Chief Counsel, in consultation with the gaming lab, drafts regulations outlining the board's approved rules of play. In this process, there have always been instances when a submission to the gaming lab seeking approval of a game or side wager varied only slightly from the board's existing regulations for a game, but not so much as to impact the integrity of the game, or varied enough to justify required drafting regulations for an entirely new game. In those instances, the manufacturer of the game or device will typically seek a waiver of the board's regulations until such time that the existing regulations can be modified and amended to bring the game into complete compliance. The board's executive director, in consultation with board staff, has long been delegated authority to approve these regulatory waivers. Over the past few years, however, particularly with the expansion of gaming into the online market, which ultimately resulted in a large increase in the number of waiver requests being submitted, There's also an ever-increasing number of game manufacturers and persons in the employment of gaming manufacturers entering the field, and this has resulted in a situation whereby submissions seeking regulatory waivers are now regularly being made for products not appropriate for a waiver, as they diverge significantly from the board's regulations, situations where formal requests fail to provide everything the gaming lab needs to evaluate the waiver, and also waivers being sent to various persons within the agency. As a result, the Office of Chief Counsel is requesting the resolution presently before the board, which will go out to the industry and establish a clear and precise policy relative to making regulatory waivers and what is appropriate for a regulatory waiver. And this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the regulation waiver request policy as proposed by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board today are 4 petitions. Each of these petitions will be decided on the documentary record by agreement of the parties, or because the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the requested relief. In each of these matters, the board has, in advance of this meeting, been provided with the complete evidentiary record. The first petition before the board today is Luz Valesquez's petition to lift the suspension of her gaming employee occupation permit. By way of background, on October 16, 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint seeking the emergency suspension of Ms. Valesquez's gaming employee occupation permit after receiving notice that she was criminally charged with felony and misdemeanors relating to a firearm offense. As a result of her charges, the board's executive director issued an emergency order suspending her permit. A hearing was subsequently held, and a recommendation was issued by the board's Office of Hearings and Appeals, recommending that the suspension remain in effect because the criminal charges remain pending. The board accepted this recommendation on March 20th, 2024, and issued an order continuing the suspension. Ms. Valesquez is now asking the board to lift the suspension of her gaming employee occupation permit, stating that all charges have now been dismissed. The Office of Enforcement Counsel, after conducting some due diligence research, confirmed that is in fact the case and has no objection to this request, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant Luz Velasquez petition to lift the suspension of his gaming employee occupation permit as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a request for removal from the self-exclusion list. On August 17th, 2014, an individual with the initials DN placed herself on the list, choosing the lifetime self-exclusion option. On August 19th, 2024, DN filed a request for removal from the list. DN included in her petition a problem gambling assessment verification form signed by a certified assessment provider, confirming that after an assessment of DN was performed, that problem gambling treatment was not recommended. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer stating it had no objection to DN's request, as more than 10 years had passed since her placement on the list, and she had provided all required documentation, and there is no known violations of the self-exclusion ban she placed upon herself. As a result, there's no objection, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant DN's petition for removal from the self-exclusion as described by the Office of Chief Counsel. Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board today is a second petition requesting removal from the self-exclusion list. On February 16th, 2013, an individual with the initials SJ placed himself on the list, choosing the lifetime self-exclusion option. On August 21st, 2024, SJ filed his request for removal from the list. SJ included with his petition a problem gambling assessment verification form signed by a certified assessment provider, confirming that an assessment of SJ was performed and problem gambling treatment was not recommended. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer stating that although SJ did have 2 violations of his self-exclusion, that they each occurred over 6 years ago, and as he has now been on the list for over 11 years, and it's been 6 years since a self-exclusion violation, and the problem gambling assessment form was submitted, as required by the regulation. That OEC had no objection, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant SJ's petition for removal from the casino's self-exclusion list as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted.
The final petition before the board today is Julianne Lee's request for reconsideration of the board's October 23rd, 2024 order placing Ms. Lee on the involuntary exclusion list. On July 28th, 2023, Ms. Lee and another individual left 3 children unattended in a hotel room at Mount Airy Casino Resort while they gamed. Consequently, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Ms. Lee on the exclusion list. Ms. Lee failed to respond to the petition, and on October 23rd, 2024, the board granted OEC's petition and placed Ms. Lee on the list by default judgment. On October 24th, 2024, Ms. Lee's attorney sent an email to the board clerk stating that his client had just received the notice informing her that the matter would be on the October board meeting agenda on the day of the actual meeting. Counsel for Ms. Lee further indicated that she had recently relocated from Florida to New York. The notice was sent to the Florida address, so there was a delay in her receiving the notice. As a result of that issue, the Office of Chief Counsel recommends that this reconsideration be granted. She be removed from the excluded persons list, and the matter be remanded to the Office of Hearings and Appeals for evidentiary hearing.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant Julian Lee's request for reconsideration as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, presenting withdrawals, surrenders, and reports and recommendations is Deputy Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman.
Good morning, Commissioners. The next matter before the board today pertains to several requests that are unopposed to withdraw applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals and entities: Hamers Consulting LLC, Daniel Alexander, Peter Eckmark, Michael Marshall, Nils Vandenbring, Lars Wickel, Emile Descartier Demarchien, James Del Rosario, Jock MKT PA LLC, Bid Ventures, Jock Holdings LLC, Jock Market Gaming, Inc., John Carlin, Ben Gerton, Marco Castaguda, Prime Directors Limited, and Virtual IP Assets Limited. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objections to any of these withdrawals or surrenders. As a result, if the board chooses to grant these requests, in every case, it would be doing so without prejudice to the requester, and these matters are all now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next before the board for consideration are 5 reports and recommendations received from the Office of Hearings and Appeals. These reports and recommendations, along with the evidentiary record for each hearing, have been previously provided to the board in advance of today's meeting. Additionally, the persons involved in each matter have been notified that the board would be considering their matter today and that each would have the ability to come forward and address the board if they so choose. If any of the persons who are the subject to one of these reports and recommendations are present today and would like to address the board, I would ask them to come forward when their matter is called. The first report and recommendation before the board today pertains to is Ratu Kanu. Ms. Kanu holds a non-gaming employee registration and worked as an EVS attendant for Team Clean, Inc., a company that provides cleaning services for Live Hotel and Casino in Philadelphia. On March 14, 2024, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint for revocation of Ms. Kanu's registration after receiving notice that she had stolen a slot machine voucher dropped by a patron at Live Philadelphia. A hearing in this matter was held July 2024. OEC appeared at the hearing and provided testimony, documentary, and surveillance evidence. Ms. Kanu, however, failed to attend the hearing and it was held in her absence. Evidence presented showed that on July 29, 2022, a patron dropped a slot machine voucher that Ms. Kanu picked up and placed in her cleaning cart and then later placed on her person. She was charged with theft-related misdemeanors, permanently evicted from the casino, and terminated by Team Clean, Inc. Consequently, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. Kanu's registration be revoked, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Isradu Kanu's non-gaming employee registration be revoked.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board today is the report and recommendation for Tommy Tran. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints to both place Mr. Tran on the board's involuntary exclusion list and revoke his gaming level 2 employee occupation permit after it was found that on July 17, 2022, Mr. Tran left a minor unattended in a vehicle for more than 7 hours while he gamed at Live Casino Philadelphia. A hearing on both matters was held July 11, 2024. The Office of Enforcement Counsel appeared offering witness testimony as well as documentary and video evidence. Mr. Tran appeared and testified on his own behalf. Evidence and testimony presented at the hearing showed that on July 17, 2022, Mr. Tran arrived at Live Philadelphia and entered the casino around 1:50 a.m., leaving a 14-year-old child unattended in the vehicle. Mr. Tran was later confronted by casino staff around 9:30 a.m. regarding the unattended minor after the minor left the vehicle and entered the casino to charge a cell phone. Mr. Tran initially denied that he had a child with him and continued to game. However, moments later, as he was waiting to cash out, security again confronted him and he was escorted to the minor. He then admitted to security that the child's father had left the child with him earlier. No charges were filed against Mr. Tran, however, he was permanently evicted from the casino. During Mr. Tran's testimony, he apologized for his conduct, stating he was just looking out for a friend and they should have avoided the situation. It is noteworthy, however, that Mr. Tran is no longer employed in the gaming industry. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Tran be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list and that his G2 permit be revoked, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Tommy Tran's gaming level 2 employee occupation permit be revoked, and that he be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next is the report and recommendation pertaining to Dasan Sanders. In March 2024, Mr. Sanders submitted an application for a gaming employee occupation permit seeking to work as a table games dealer at Wind Creek Bethlehem Casino. On April 25, 2024, the Office of Enforcement Counsel issued a notice recommending denial of Mr. Sanders' application based on his criminal record. Mr. Sanders requested a hearing which was held in July of 2024. Mr. Sanders appeared and testified on his own behalf. OEC also appeared and presented testimonial and documentary evidence. The evidence at the hearing showed that Mr. Sanders disclosed on his application that on April 4, 2023, he had participated in a Ding Dong Ditch TikTok video challenge where he and two other individuals entered a dorm by kicking it in and launching himself into the room, alarming the occupants of the room. He was charged with misdemeanor and summary offenses, and he was admitted to the Accelerated Rehabilitative Disposition Program for these charges. Mr. Sanders also amended his application later to include a summary retail theft. Specifically in October 2023, Mr. Sanders was cited and pleaded guilty to a retail theft after he and his friend changed the price tags on an item to purchase it at a lower cost. Mr. Sanders testified as to his conduct where he showed remorse and apologized for his actions. He further testified that he is currently 20 years old, he is working and is enrolled in college to become an electrician, and also successfully completed the 6-week training program to become a dealer and was offered a full-time position at Wind Creek. Following the hearing officer issued a report and recommendation stating that although Mr. Sanders should be applauded for planning his future and making changes in his life, his criminal behavior is too recent, and at this time, his application for a gaming permit should be denied, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and the Dasan Sanders Gaming Employee Occupation Permit application be denied.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Julia Bertolini is the next matter before the board today. On April 10th, 2024, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Ms. Bertolini on the board's involuntary exclusion list. A hearing in this matter was held in August of 2024. OEC appeared at the hearing presenting testimony, documentary, and surveillance evidence. Ms. Bertolini appeared and testified on her own behalf. Evidence and testimony showed that on August 5th, 2022, Ms. Bertolini entered the Live Pittsburgh, a Category 4 casino that is attached to the Greensburg Mall, with two 12-year-old girls. As required and directed by board staff, Ms. Bertolini chaperoned the girls through the sports and social restaurant area to the mall entrance. While the girls were in the mall, Ms. Bertolini gamed. Approximately an hour and a half later, the girls met Ms. Bertolini at the mall entrance, and Ms. Bertolini then escorted the minors back through the sports and social restaurant area back to the main entrance lobby of the casino. She then left the girls at the in the lobby next to the security podium while she attempted to cash out a voucher. During this time, security then approached the girls, spoke with Ms. Bertolini, and she was issued a 2-month eviction for leaving the girls alone in the lobby. Ms. Bertolini testified that since the girls wanted to go to the mall, she decided to stay at the casino and pick them up from the mall entrance once they were done. She was informed by security that the minors had to be chaperoned while on the carpeted floor, which she did, and she believed it was okay to then leave the girls in the lobby entrance while she went to the casino just to cash out her voucher. She apologized and stated she understands now why she should not have left the girls in the lobby unattended. Following a hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. Bertolini be placed on the exclusion list, however, recommending that she possibly be permitted to request removal in less than 5 years. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickerell moves that the board reject the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that OEC's request to place Julia Bertolini on the board's involuntary exclusion list be denied.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Sean Wiggins is the subject of the final report and recommendation before the board today. On March 8th, 2024, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Sean Wiggins on the involuntary exclusion list. A hearing in this matter was held July of 2024. OEC appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Wiggins appeared and testified on his own behalf. The evidence and testimony presented at the hearing showed that on September 22nd, 2022, while playing craps at Hollywood Casino, York, Mr. Wiggins pass-posted a wager. Mr. Wiggins was confronted by the Pennsylvania State Police and staff at Hollywood for his actions and was informed that he would be evicted from the casino for 7 days. Mr. Wiggins became argumentative and combative towards police and casino staff, and prior to Mr. Wiggins being removed from the property by the local police, he called an ambulance claiming that state police had hurt his shoulder due to abuse and was taken off the property by ambulance. The day following the incident, Mr. Wiggins was on the phone with the security manager at Hollywood. He admitted to making threatening gestures to staff and calling them derogatory names, and he also threatened the security manager, stating he hoped he and his kids died. Further review of Mr. Wiggins' incident, the casino permanently evicted him. Mr. Wiggins has also been involved in other incidents at Hollywood Casino for failure to produce identification and a physical altercation with another patron. Mr. Wiggins testified at the hearing that the dealers at Hollywood had previously allowed him to pass post bets when he made them verbally, and then he stated at the altercation with the other patrons because he had been drinking and was angry that the patron's hand was bleeding, and the patron refused to cover up his wound, and instead of evicting that patron, casino personnel threatened to shut down the table. He further testified that he believes the casino was discriminating against him. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Sean Wiggins be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Sean Wiggins be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Rawson seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes the matters of the Office of Chief Counsel. Thank you.
And Chad, we will now have the Bureau of Licensing matters presented by the Director of the Bureau of Licensing, Sean Hannon. Sean?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Today's first licensing matter for your consideration is the renewal of the Fantasy Contest Operator License for Crown PA DFS Incorporated, doing business as DraftKings Incorporated. The company was incorporated on April 10th, 2018 in Delaware, and its principal place of business is in Boston, Massachusetts. Crown PA DFS Incorporated is a provider of a fantasy sports platform that allows Pennsylvania customers to compete in online fantasy sports contests. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that the board consider the order to renew the fantasy contest operator license for Crown PA DFS Incorporated.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the fantasy contest operator license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next licensing matter for your consideration is the approval of a table game manufacturer license for Game On Chip Company, LLC, doing business as Chipco. Originally formed in Maine on January 30th, 2013, Game On Chip Company, LLC's principal place of business is now in St. Petersburg, Florida. The company manufactures casino gaming and poker chips for distribution to licensed facilities in the Commonwealth. Game On Chip Company was granted interim authorization on March 28th, 2024. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I provide you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to approve Game On Chip Company for a table game manufacturer license.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the table game manufacturer license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next for consideration is the approval of Hacksaw Gaming PA LLC for an interactive gaming manufacturer license. Hacksaw Gaming is a limited liability company that was formed in Delaware in November of 2021, with its principal place of business in West Palm Beach, Florida. The company manufactures and develops slot-style interactive games and intends to offer its products to interactive gaming operators within the Commonwealth. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I provide you with a draft order and ask the board consider the order to approve the interactive gaming manufacturer license for Hacksaw Gaming PA LLC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the interactive gaming manufacturing license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, we have consideration of a video gaming terminal establishment license renewal for 6406 Truck Plaza LLC, doing business as Emlenton Truck Plaza. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has now completed its investigation, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I provide you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to renew the license for Emlenton Truck Plaza located in Emlenton, Pennsylvania.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, there are principal and key employee licenses. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 11 principals and 18 key employees. I ask the board consider the order approving these licenses.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant the principal and key employee licenses as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
There are also principal and key employee temporary credentials. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary credentials for 13 principals and 20 key employees. I ask that the board consider the order approving these credentials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board grant the temporary principal and key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Additionally, for your consideration are gaming employee permits and non-gaming employee registrations. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a list of 824 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits, and 311 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registrations under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask that the Board consider a motion approving the order.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, there is a recommendation of denial for 4 gaming and 1 non-gaming applicants. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with the order addressing the applicants who the Office of Enforcement Counsel has recommended for denial. I ask that the Board consider the order approving these denials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel continues to request denial in each matter.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board deny the gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
The next matter for your consideration is withdrawal requests. In each case, the license, permit, or registration is no longer required. For today's meeting, I have provided the Board with 33 gaming and 16 non-gaming applicants. I ask that the Board consider the orders approving these withdrawals.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the withdrawal of gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Next, we have an order to certify Hot Links LLC, who has applied as a gaming-related gaming service provider. A gaming-related gaming service provider is a company that is the owner of a patent or has a patent pending for a new game, wager, game variation, side bet, or similar innovation relating to a table game, and is seeking to offer it to bring it to a brick-and-mortar casino in the Commonwealth. The Bureau of Investigation has not completed its investigation, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with the draft order and ask the Board consider the order certifying Hot Links LLC.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the gaming-related gaming service provider certification as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
In addition, is an order to renew the certification for Fantasy Advantage LTD, doing business as Sidelines Group, who is a gaming service provider. I have provided you with a draft order and ask the Board consider their order to renew the certification for Fantasy Advantage LTD.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the gaming service provider certification as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Finally, for your consideration are gaming service provider registrations. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order and an attached list of 8 registered gaming service provider applicants. I ask that the Board consider the order registering these gaming service providers.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the gaming service provider registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Next is the Office of Enforcement Counsel, Cyrus Petrie. Cyrus.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Board. Today, the Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 22 matters for the Board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 2 consent agreements, 1 suspension, 5 revocations, and 14 involuntary exclusions. The next matter on the agenda for the Board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and video game establishment licensee Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores, Inc., doing business as Love's Travel Stop, number 407. The matter will be presented by Senior Enforcement Counsel David Tepper. Representatives for Love's are present, and at this time I request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record, and that any non-attorney witnesses please stand and be sworn.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Smaller and members of the board. My name is Bradley McAllister, MCA, LLISTER, of Greenberg Traurig, External Regulatory Counsel for Loves. With me is Richard Ketchum, Senior Manager of Other Income for Loves.
Is Mr. Ketchum an attorney?
No, ma'am.
Could you stand and be sworn, please?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smiler, members of the board. David Tepper, TEPPER, on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel. VGT establishments are required to have a board-credentialed employee on duty when video gaming terminals are available for play at a licensed truck stop. During a routine inspection on February 22nd, 2024, the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement determined that video gaming terminals were available for play at Love's Travel Stop number 407 while no board-credentialed employee was on duty. During an investigation of Love's Travel Stop number 407, which looked at their operations from January 27th, 2024 through February 27th, 2024, it was determined that on 13 of these days, wagers were placed on VGTs for more than 1 hour while there was no board-credentialed employee on duty. Specifically, during this time, VGTs were available for play for approximately 80 hours and 10 minutes with no board-credentialed employee on duty. Further, during that time, wagers were placed for a total of approximately 43 hours and 41 minutes while no board-credentialed employee was on duty. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board approve this consent agreement between the parties. The terms of the settlement include that within 5 days of the board's order approving the consent agreement, Love's Travel Stop number 407 shall pay a civil penalty in the amount of $32,500 for these violations. Also, within 5 days of the board's order approving this consent agreement, Love's Travel Stop number 407 shall pay the board $2,500 for the costs incurred by the Office of Enforcement Counsel, the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement, and other related board staff in connection with this matter. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to address them at this time.
Loves, would you like to address the board?
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board in relation to the consent agreement before you. Loves is in agreement with the terms of the proposed consent agreement, and the company wishes to acknowledge the work of OEC Attorney Tepper, the BIA agents involved, and board staff for their work on this matter up to this point. Loves is committed to its duty to adhere to the Act and the board's rules in the operation of establishment locations in Pennsylvania, and to ensure that a similar violation does not occur again. The violations at Store 407 initiated a number of compliance improvements, and I will provide a brief overview of the actions taken by Loves since that violation. In June of 2024, Mr. Ketchum initiated an on-site visit at each of the 5 establishment locations, which involves senior members of Love's management team for the company's East Regional operations. At these meetings, Love's emphasized its VGT gaming employee standards and the protocol for making video gaming devices unavailable for play when no board-credentialed employee is on duty. Such protocol involves closing and locking the door to the video gaming area. Following these on-site visits, Love's instituted a bi-weekly compliance meeting at each of its establishment locations. These meetings are led by the location general manager, and attendance is mandatory for the site operations manager, the shift manager, and all board-credentialed employees. Such bi-weekly meetings reinforce training and provide a forum to raise any video gaming-related compliance questions. Additionally, in these meetings, Love's has increased oversight of staffing procedures in relation to its board credentials employees. Finally, in response to this violation, Love's took internal disciplinary action, including termination of an employee who was involved in making false statements to the board's agents. At this time, Love's is available to respond to any questions the board may have with regard to the proposed consent agreement.
Any questions or comments from the board? I actually do have a comment. We appreciate all of the steps you've taken to rectify the situation, and especially the termination of that employee, because we were all amazed at how much he told untruths to people on multiple occasions. So I'm glad some action was taken against him. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Love Travel Stops and Country Stores, Inc., doing business as Love Travel Stop number 407, as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Video Gaming Establishment Licensee TA Operating LLC, doing business as Travel Centers of America, number 12. The matter will once again be presented by Senior Enforcement Counsel David Tepper. Representatives for Travel Centers are present, and at this time, I request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record, and that all non-attorney witnesses please stand and be sworn.
Good morning. My name is Erin Cordier. I'm outside counsel to Travel Centers of America. It's COR, D as in David, IER.
Good morning. My name is Greg Collison. I'm the Director of Gaming for Travel Centers of America. I do.
OEC, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair Smiler. VGT establishments are required to have a board-credentialed employee on duty at all times that video gaming terminals are available for play at a licensed truck stop. Additionally, VGT establishments are required to notify the board and the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement when they identify violations of the Video Gaming Act and the board's regulations. During a routine inspection on February 28, 2024, the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement determined that video gaming terminals were available for play at Travel Centers of America, site number 12, while no board-credentialed employee was on duty. During an investigation of Travel Centers of America, site number 12, which looked at their operations from February 4th, 2024 through March 4th, 2024, it was determined on 13 of these days wagers were placed on VGTs for more than 1 hour when there was no board-credentialed employee on duty. Specifically, during this time, VGTs were available for play for approximately 182 hours and 45 minutes with no board-credentialed employee on duty. Further, during that time, wagers were placed for a total of approximately 81 hours and 38 minutes while no board-credentialed employee was on duty. Additionally, on February 28, 2024, an unidentified Travel Centers of America Site Number 12 employee who does not hold a board-issued credential entered the video gaming area and had contact with a patron who appeared to remove the patron from the video gaming area before locking it. This incident was not reported to the board or to the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board approve this consent agreement between the parties. The terms of the settlement include that within 5 days of the board's order approving this consent agreement, Travel Centers of America, Site Number 12, shall pay a civil penalty in the amount of $37,500 for these violations. Also, within 5 days of the board's order approving this consent agreement, Travel Centers of America, Site Number 12, shall pay the board $2,500 for the costs incurred by the Office of Enforcement Counsel, the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement, and other related board staff in connection with this matter. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to address them at this time.
Thank you. Travel Centers of America, would you like to address the board?
We would. Thank you for the opportunity to address this matter. We agree with the facts set forth by OEC and acknowledge that there were repeated violations of the video gaming law that required a licensee to have a board credential employee on site supervising the video gaming area during all times that VGTs are available to play, as well as to report any violations of such rules to the board. Travel Centers of America understands it's a privilege to participate in the video gaming industry here in the Commonwealth and the importance of adhering to the board's rules and regulations. The violations here were the result of poor management and a lack of internal controls, each of which were promptly addressed following notification by the PGCB of these violations. After a prompt investigation, the district manager responsible for the site was terminated. As outlined in the consent agreement, additional remedial measures were also taken. Specifically, TA now requests, but does not mandate, that all new hires across all locations become board-credentialed employees. At this particular site, the number of board-credentialed employees has increased to 5, with 2 additional pending. TA also developed a new training module for all employees across all locations to better address video gaming operations. This training, all existing employees were required to complete this training, and employees will be required to participate in annual training on an ongoing basis. As part of its changes to the internal controls, General managers of each site are now required to submit their weekly schedule of employees to the Director of Gaming. In the event that there is a shift that does not have a board credential employee scheduled, the general manager is first instructed to try to adjust the schedule, and if that is not possible, or in the event an unforeseen circumstance comes up where a board credential employee is unable to be present, then the video gaming room is closed, the doors are locked, and a sign is placed to alert the customers of the temporary closure. And all these matters are reported to the district manager and director of gaming. TA remains committed to compliance and participating in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you for the steps that you've taken to rectify the situation. With that, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and TA Operating LLC doing business as Travel Centers of America No. 12, as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next 6 matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the suspension or revocation of permits or registrations previously issued by the board. The complaint in each matter has been filed with the board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond in 30 days, within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each respondent. Therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted, all filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Good morning again, Chair Smiler, members of the board. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the suspension of the video gaming terminal gaming employee occupation permit issued to Wendy Hunt. Ms. Hunt was previously employed as a cashier for VGT establishment licensee Raceway Management Company doing business as Anvo Mount Cobb. Ms. Hunt was charged by the Pennsylvania State Police with theft-related offenses, including theft by unlawful taking, rated as a third-degree felony, due to her theft of approximately $900 worth of instant lottery tickets while employed at an Anvo location that does not hold an establishment license. Ms. Hunt's criminal charges remain pending at this time, and she is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board suspend the video gaming terminal gaming employee occupation permit issued to Wendy Hunt.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the suspension of Wendy Hunt's video gaming terminal employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Juan Sanchez, SANCHEZ, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the employee occupation permit issued to Dana Morgan. Ms. Morgan was previously employed as a tables games dealer at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Rivers terminated Ms. Morgan because she colluded with or otherwise allowed 10 patrons to cheat 154 times over 5 work shifts by giving the players advantages that resulted in a total of $83,455 in ill-gotten gains. The Pennsylvania State Police arrested and criminally charged Ms. Morgan for these acts. Ms. Morgan subsequently pleaded guilty to theft offenses and was sentenced to probation in order to pay restitution. She is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Dana Morgan.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the revocation of Dana Morgan's gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. Andrea Roberts, ROBERTS, Assistant Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Edward Careless. Mr. Careless was previously employed as a security officer at Parks Casino. Mr. Careless stole a $764 winning sportsbook ticket that a patron had dropped on the gaming floor. Mr. Careless gave the voucher to another patron who redeemed it at the main cage and gave Mr. Careless the currency. Mr. Careless was terminated as a result of this incident. Pennsylvania State Police were notified, but no criminal charges were filed. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board revoke the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Edward Careless.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the revocation of Edward Careless's game employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Leroy Johnson. Mr. Johnson was previously employed as an EVS attendant at Team Clean, Inc. While working at Live Casino Philadelphia, Mr. Johnson stole a wallet dropped on the floor by a patron. Mr. Johnson turned the wallet into live security after removing $250 to $350 in currency from it. Mr. Johnson was criminally charged and subsequently pled nolo contendere. Team Clean terminated Mr. Johnson's employment as a result of this incident. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Leroy Johnson.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the revocation of Leroy Johnson's non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Jessica Pasqualone. Ms. Pasqualone was previously employed as a slot technician at Parks Casino. Ms. Pasqualone redeemed $234.46 in vouchers over the course of 5 work shifts at Parks Casino. A review determined that Ms. Pasqualone was collecting abandoned vouchers and printing vouchers for abandoned credits on slot machines. Ms. Pasqualone would then insert multiple vouchers into slot machines and print new vouchers for increasingly higher value. Ms. Pasqualone would then redeem those vouchers for currency and retain the currency. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board revoke the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Jessica Pasqualone.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the revocation of Jessica Pascalone's gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Good morning, Chair Smiler, members of the board. Dustin Miller on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the Gaming Level 2 employee occupation permit issued to Darlena Nguyen. Ms. Nguyen was previously employed as an international casino host at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. While employed at Rivers, she was caught helping her brother James Nguyen gain access to various player accounts. Mr. Nguyen would download free slot play belonging to other players' accounts and game using the account. This was discovered after one of the owners of the accounts complained to casino staff. Ms. Nguyen was terminated from Rivers, Philadelphia, and she is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the Gaming Level 2 employee occupation permit issued to Darlena Nguyen.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the revocation of Darlena Nguyen's gaming level 2 employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals who are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, the petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in each petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each instance, if the board orders a proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of the inimical conduct may be placed on the board's public website. Once again, in each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Dustin Miller, once again on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place James Nguyen on the involuntary exclusion list. As stated in the previous matter, through Darlene Nguyen, his sister, James Nguyen fraudulently gained access to various player accounts and downloaded free slot play from other players' accounts and gamed using the account. This was discovered after one of the owners of the accounts complained to casino staff. This time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place James Nguyen on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of James Nguyen to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place Paul Leinhauser on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Leinhauser left his 6-year-old child in his vehicle unattended for approximately 30 minutes in the parking lot at Hollywood Casino Morgantown while he played slot machines. The child was discovered after security received a call from a patron reporting the incident. Mr. Leinhauser was issued a 1-year eviction from Hollywood Casino Morgantown, was criminally charged, and subsequently pled guilty to endangering the welfare of children. This time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Paul Leinhauser on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Paul Leinhauser to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place Lanya Marcette on the involuntary exclusion list. Ms. Marcette was present at Rivers, Philadelphia when she was observed cheating while playing a table game. Additionally, she stole a stack of the dealer's chips, which totaled approximately $1,300. After she reached over and stole the stack of chips, she quickly exited Rivers, Philadelphia. She was issued a permanent eviction from Rivers, Philadelphia. She was not criminally charged. In a prior incident at Rivers, Philadelphia, she was issued a 24-hour eviction for getting into a dispute with another patron. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Lanya Marcette on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Lana Marcette to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Rawson seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place James Nix on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Nix arrived at Rivers, Philadelphia with an infant. After he parked his vehicle, he entered Rivers, Philadelphia to place sports bets, leaving the infant unattended. Security for Rivers, Philadelphia discovered the unattended infant shortly after Mr. Nix left his vehicle. Mr. Nix was away from the infant for approximately 5 minutes before returning. He was issued a permanent eviction by Rivers, Philadelphia, and a citation for leaving the infant unattended in his vehicle. This time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place James Nix on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of James Nix to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place Igor Petrovsky on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Petrovsky was present at Presque Isle Downs and Casino when he committed a theft. Specifically, he stole another patron's stack of chips, which totaled approximately $1,325. Mr. Petrovsky was criminally charged and was issued an eviction by Presque Isle. On 2 prior occasions, Mr. Petrovsky was asked to leave Prescal for being intoxicated. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Igor Petrovsky on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Igor Petrovsky to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place Igor Shoga on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Shoga arrived at Mount Airy and left an 11-year-old child unattended in his vehicle. The minor was discovered after another patron reported seeing the child in Mr. Shoga's vehicle. The minor was left unattended for approximately an hour and 40 minutes. While the minor was left alone in the vehicle, Mr. Shoga was inside of Mount Airy playing slot machines. He was not criminally charged. He was issued an eviction from Mount Airy. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requested the board place Igor Shoga on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Igor Shoga to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Good morning, Thomas Monahan, Monaghan, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place CB of Blackshear on the board's interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list. Ms. Blackshear opened an interactive gaming account on the Bet Parks interactive gaming website. She made multiple deposits totaling $20,846. Ms. Blackshear's wagering activity resulted in her losing the entirety of the money she deposited. Subsequently, she failed or refused to pay $3,250 that she owed to Bet Parks as a result of her gaming activity. Bet Parks closed Ms. Blackshear's interactive gaming account. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests the board place CB Blackshear on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Sibia Blackshear to the PGCB involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Arthur Dangle on the board's interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Dangle opened an interactive gaming account on the Bet Parks interactive gaming website, made multiple deposits totaling $6,300. Mr. Dangle's wagering activity resulted in losing the entirety of the money deposited. Subsequently, Mr. Dangle failed or refused to pay $5,800 that he owed to Bet Parks as a result of his gaming activity. Bet Parks closed Mr. Dangle's interactive gaming account. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests the board place Arthur Dangle on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Arthur Dangle to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next two matters on the agenda for the board's consideration stem from the same or similar set of facts. Therefore, with the board's permission, I will cite one set of facts, then ask for each individual to place on the board's interactive involuntary exclusion list. Jonathan Hawley and Mohammed Hawley each created multiple accounts on the Barstool Sportsbook interactive gaming platform using the personal identifying information of other individuals. All of the accounts were closed and the devices were blocked from being used. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests the board place Jonathan Hawley on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Jonathan Hawley to the PGCB involuntary interactive gaming exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests the board place Mohammed Hawley on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Mohammed Hawley to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Once again, Andrea Roberts, Assistant Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the request to place Jabbar Hatton on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Hatton left two minors, 6 and 13 years old, unattended in a vehicle outside Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia for approximately 13 minutes. Mr. Hatton entered the casino where he patronized a sportsbook kiosk. Pennsylvania State Police were notified and responded, but no criminal charges were filed. Live permanently evicted Mr. Hatton from their property as a result of this incident. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Jabbar Hatton on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Javar Hatton to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the request to place Tia Saunders on the involuntary exclusion list. Ms. Saunders was present at Hollywood Casino York when she stole a wallet belonging to another patron and then departed the casino. Pennsylvania State Police were notified, but no charges were filed. Hollywood banned Ms. Saunders from their property as a result of this incident. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Tia Saunders on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Tia Saunders to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the request to place Corbin Schindler on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Schindler retrieved a wallet dropped by another patron outside the valet entrance of Valley Forge Casino Resort. Mr. Schindler removed currency from the wallet before turning it into Valley Forge staff. Mr. Schindler did not pay restitution. Valley Forge permanently banned Mr. Schindler from their property as a result of this incident. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Corbin Schindler on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Corbin Schindler to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kelsey Scirotto, SCI-RRO-TTO, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The final matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place Macy Wilson on the involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Wilson was present at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia when he reached across a table and stole $16,900 in chips and fled from the casino. Mr. Wilson was criminally charged and pled guilty. In addition, Mr. Wilson stole $34,700 in chips at Rivers Casino Philadelphia and $3,200 in chips from Parks Casino using similar methods. Police have been notified of these incidents, and Mr. Wilson was criminally charged. For the last incident, Mr. Wilson pled guilty to felony theft by unlawful taking. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Macy Wilson on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Macy Wilson to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you. That concludes our business.
Thank you, Cyrus. The last item on the agenda for today is public comment. Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the board? Please come forward. Good morning. Could you just state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Josh Ercole. My name is Joshercole. And I am here today representing the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania. We are the Pennsylvania state affiliate of the National Council on Problem Gambling, and we serve as a statewide nonprofit advocacy group.
Oh, Mr. Urkel, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I meant to tell you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Our primary focus is on assisting individuals who are struggling with any type of gambling-related issue. The primary way that we assist individuals and family members is by the 24-hour statewide helpline service, which can be accessed, again, 24 hours by contacting 1-800-GAMBLER or by using the chat or text features that we have available on our website. And today I'm here to express our concerns regarding the proposed changes to Pennsylvania's self-exclusion program under Regulation 125250, in which land-based casino self-exclusion terms of 1 year and 5 years would change to automatic removals at the completion of each term rather than remaining an active process as it is now. Along with several of our colleagues in Pennsylvania and around the country, we believe that this change would reduce the overall effectiveness of the casino self-exclusion program, and we encourage the board to review the National Council on Problem Gambling's Internet Responsible Gambling Standards, in which active removal from self-exclusion programs is recommended as an effort to best protect players. At the council, we participate regularly in a statewide problem gambling consortium with departments and organizations from across the Commonwealth, and we meet to share information and insights and data. And a lot of what we discuss has to do with things like helpline activity, which we've seen increase dramatically over the course of the past several years. During these meetings, we also receive updates from the Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling Director, Liz Lanza, who often shares information about self-exclusion and how that continues to be an effective and widely utilized tool in the Commonwealth with continually increasing number of enrollments. Collectively, we believe that it's more important than ever to work together to keep protections as strong and as effective as possible rather than making changes to potentially weaken them. In the proposal, it was stated that requiring individuals to take action after the selected period has elapsed results in individuals experiencing negative effects, since many individuals erroneously believe that once the time period selected for casino self-exclusion has passed, they are once allowed again to engage in gaming activities. We do believe that there are more effective ways to communicate this effectively, and we would be happy to assist with that. The goal, obviously, is minimizing negative outcomes, but also maintaining the effectiveness of the program. Further, if individuals who are already enrolled in the casino self-exclusion program prior to this change being implemented will not automatically be removed, which the proposal outlines, we feel that this will only likely create additional confusion rather than provide clarity. Ultimately, we believe that adopting an automatic removal process for self-exclusion increases risk for gambling disorder and potential relapse. It also decreases customer choice, and it ultimately goes against best practices in responsible gambling, which is a vital element in protecting public health, public safety, and well-being. We do urge the board reconsider this proposal and instead focus on unifying the programs by changing the existing iGaming, fantasy contests, and VGT self-exclusion programs to match the existing current self-exclusion programs, where, again, individuals will remain enrolled until they actively request removal. This would help to reduce confusion and, at the same time, better protect individuals in Pennsylvania. I'd like to thank you again for your time this morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. And your 3 minutes are just about up, so thank you. So that concludes today's meeting. The next public board meeting will be held on Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, at 10 a.m. at this location. I'd like to wish everyone a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and I would now like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I would like to so move that we adjourn.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Hey, Sarah, I might be able to catch that train with you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome.